welcome everybody here today after the pause, after our week of vacation. We go on with the lecture series, the Leçon du mardi, this year organized by Ambra Fabi and me under the title, What is Ornament, which is the title of the exhibition we organized in Lisbon 2019 in the frame of the Triennale of Lisbon. The idea of this series of lectures is indeed to, how we were saying just before the lecture started, reopen a little bit the door of that chapter that we thought to have closed with the exhibition, but to reopen and to give a little, to find the occasion to find more content and to expand some of the interventions, some of the contribution that has been kindly produced for that exhibition. Indeed, the idea of the lecture series is indeed to invite people who has participated to the exhibition we invite them to give a conference under the same title. So today we have with us Julchen Bernhardt, part of the office BeL, which was founded by Anne together with Jürgen Leser in year 2000, if I'm not wrong, and which participated to the exhibition in the chapter walls or cladding, I would say, with the project Spielbudenplatz in Hamburg. I think that we will have the occasion to see something about that project. Yes, that's great. That's great because it's an incredible project. And yeah, it is a project that could have been in that chapter, could have been also in the chapter which we call vessels, in which we had analyzed several buildings where the facade were indeed carrying a layer of information. So I think that's a project which could have fit in different parts of our exhibition, I think. Well, at the end, we decided for that chapter, but as we were already saying, many of the contribution could have moved from one place to the other. And so specifically the most successful contribution. So I will leave the word to Anne Julchen now for the presentation, and we will reopen questions afterwards. Of course, as usual, you can do the questions. You can even write the questions on the chat, and we will be happy to how to say, to read them for you, to Anne Julchen. And sometimes it's easier to write the questions, but if this is a good formula, we can use it. That's it. That's it. Thank you, Anne Julchen, to be here with us today. And the screen is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Giovanni, for the introduction and also for the invitation to this, in a way, not so easy task to talk about our work in a very specific, from a very specific view. So it's not what I'm showing in the next around an hour is not a typical presentation of our work, but it's somehow focused. And I'm now starting to share my screen. And so it has a German title because I somehow was interested in having the U's on a French university site, and it's the title of the lecture is should have been ornament is, and translated Überfunktion means metafunction. So it's I think the ornament carries information, and I think in our way it's carrying information about the function maybe in a very German way, in taking the function very seriously and in over exaggerating it. In the preparation for this lecture, I started to review these beautiful books. I don't know if I'm the first one, probably not. In showing examples of the super beautiful plates of this grammar of ornament from Owen Jones, who ordered the ornaments in a chronological way, in taking parts out and describing the ornament in the emblems and the way they are constructed in a very scientific way. It's from the mid 18th century, the 19th century, and it's interesting that it's not only Euro-centered. It goes beyond the border, so there are Turkish and Persian and Indian and Chinese ornaments collected there and explained there. And then in the end, he tried to create ornaments for himself, starting from the nature in a kind of free way, because they are not that ordered and not symmetrical. And then there is a second book from a German author a bit later, who also did this kind of chronological explanation of the ornament in all epochs. And then there is a very intensive description of the arabesque, which is also very precise in the way the different layers of things are ordered and how many symbols are overlaid. So I try to relate that work with our work and have two approaches for today. So the first one is maybe the easy one, as Giovanni already mentioned, that it's about the facade as the main surface within the city that is able to talk. And I'm talking about the project we showed at the Lisbon Triennale. So I'm talking about the Spielbudenplatz, which is a kind of complex project we did together with NL architects from Amsterdam, and it started quite a time ago with an urban competition. And the Spielbudenplatz, I don't know if you're familiar with the site. It's just on the outside of the medieval city of Hamburg, and then there is a very long stripe where the ropes for the ships were being made. It's called Reeperbahn. You've maybe heard about this. And the Reeper is the doing of this, of ropes, is the craft of doing ropes. And around that open field, this production field, there were sheds for amusement for the sailors. So it's the name of the site, Spielbude, bears the program. So over the time, the sheds were a bit more massive and formed that very narrative facade towards that Reeperbahn, with the talking of "please enter me," of different theaters and amusement shows and bars and so on. And after the Second World War, several parts of the site were destroyed, and then there was the so-called Essohäuser, social housing with a gas station in the basement. And the gas station was quite famous because you can buy. It was the place where you bought your beer in strolling around the streets. And then they had construction problems and they were bought and they were teared down. And then, there were really street strikes against that development within St. Pauli, because it still is a poor neighborhood. And then the city and the developer did prepare competition. We won that competition in translating all the wishes from the neighborhood and a quite high density for a German city center within our proposal. And our proposal is that kind of block made out of different houses by different architects. And then there was a architectural competition where we also won 2 parts. The main building towards the Spielbodenplatz, so the main square, and then a simple apartment house in the backyard. And then there are others like this apartment building by La Coton Vassal and Fels 72 from Vienna and IV from Berlin, who did the other buildings. And our proposal was to have different types bound together, and in a way that this difference between the parts were one of the main arguments for our proposal, that being diverse was super important for the city and the informal neighborhood, who had a speaker which was called Spielbude. And they wanted to have a very heterogeneous project. But our program was just a hotel with 160 rooms, so quite a big thing. And in this beautiful drawing by Jane Jacobs, it's focusing the problem that that construction on a one time isn't that diverse than the city as a palimpsest. And our project somehow has to incorporate that problem, that it's a new construction, but it should talk about the complexity of the city, of the whole neighborhood, but also on the site, as you've seen in the first images of this different sheds talking with the square. So it's the facade as the main surface for narration, and the narration is intended to be about diversity, contradiction, about being cheap and monumental at the same time. And yeah, so one main strategy was to use multiple references, and with them we somehow created the ornament of the facade. So this is St. Pauli. This is in one of the neighboring streets. So it's in a way really ugly, but and very cheap. But on the other hand, it's carrying the information of that it's overdone, and then that there was somehow something like a civic background behind that. Yeah, so we had, so we had the problem that our super expensive building has to be explicit in talking about cheap things, and that the one program has to talk about diversity, and that the one building should carry information about being different parts, because in the urban competition we cut the main volume into 4 parts. And within after the progress of the whole thing, there was a bit of a diversity within the program, but it changed. So when we started to design, then there was only the hotel left. So the hotel is the explicit cash cow. And then we started to look on hotels in a kind of intense study of the typology, and we found several hints, like in this building in Belgium on the coast. The Grand Hotel Kursaal is very was a very helpful hint or source in looking on one program that is being carried by different parts. So it's facing the North Sea on a small square, and so it's constructed by 2 parts. And then after a while, it was extended in the air, and it's funny that it's almost invisible. Because I think there is is a small gap, but the upper part, the upper part, if you go back, you can't see that there is a new part, but because it's the lower part and the third floor and the fourth floor look the same, but it's a new addition. And then in the third phase, it's again extended, but not in the height, but in the depths, in the facade facing the North Sea. And then it's all the same hotel. And there is a slight shift between the two parts, that it talks about in a way different approaches in having rooms behind it, and it's ordered. This one is ordered as a corner building, and this has a symmetry, and it's the one facing the sea, but it's just one building. And then in the last phase, it's again redesigned, and now it has a combining roof. Or the last floor is now just one, and the symmetry is extended over both parts, and the thing on the corner is gone. Yeah, and we found that quite interesting in the way the different phases redid the meaning in a way of the facade. Yeah. So in our frame of having one hotel within 4 different parts, we ordered each part with one specific grid, so that the facade has a very specific order in each part, and also the rooms behind the facade react to that, so that at least the hotel rooms have something to do with the facade grid. Yeah, and then we try to rearrange or arrange the 4 parts with references in a very extensive collection, in collecting images, parts, models, films, and so on. Yeah, and we've built a huge model in trying to apply the parts on the facade. And for each part, there was something like a data source system where we collected everything. So for the first part, the building is called 3D building, and it's the building that is accessible from the city layer, and you can climb up. So it's basically an infrastructure, and when we started, there was just amusement program supposed to be there, but afterwards that disappeared. And it's also part of the hotel now, not rooms, but yeah, somehow the amusement part of the wellness center and so on. But on the roof, there is a climbing facility. Yeah, so being basically an infrastructure where you can walk around, we did a intensive research in ruins and infrastructure and the way you can walk up, so in stairs. And it was always supposed to be a folly, that it is, yeah, even more explicit as the rest of the building. So we looked into landscape gardens and found a lot of examples, and we did look into contemporary construction and found that prefab quite of some interest, and that's the outcome. So it's a building where you can walk around and walk between the structure and outside of the structure, and on the roof terrace, yeah, you can start climbing. You can move here or from here around and then here up, and then it's public. The climbing facility is public. So, and the next one is the neighboring tower. It's a bit more simple because it has that kind of ear where you can climb on. So the tower was always the one who had to be boring, because he has that big joke of being also a climbing facility, a climbing wall. So it's being a tower and boring and repetition and modernity, but also that it has a kind of closed facade with openings and a room behind. And that the closed facade carries stones where you can climb on. So it's also not a new invention, because there are several examples of very beautiful buildings with stones, like this Casa del Viscos. Yeah, and that's the combination of all these being boring and massive and having a facade where you can climb on, and the climbing part somehow stops in the corner, but it has the same material. It's prefabricated concrete with these holes where you can put the inox climbing stones in, and then the joints between the plates were filled with aluminium. So it's also a bit shiny in the evening with this climbing stones, these strange things. And then all the joints are also glimmering within the sun or the evening lights. Yeah. So, and then the middle part it's still called the middle building. It's the one that talks mainly about being a hotel. So our starting point was the Fin de Siècle hotel, maybe in the most prominent way in this advertising from 1999. For this male fragrance, Egoist, where all the girls open the door. It's a very beautiful, you can see it on YouTube, where the girl open the door, and then finally the only man opens and puts out the bottle, and it has very clear the one window where a person can look on the city, and they are really related, the person and the window, and you have this small balcony, and the whole facade is made out of one emblem, and there is somehow a modern translation sometimes, like in this beautiful hotel from Vienna. And then there is also the super Fin de Siècle material tiles, which are able to talk about a classic order of the facade in the different zones, like in this Max Fabiani facade. And they are also quite contextual, because some of the buildings in St. Pauli are covered with tiles, and also the underground station just a few meters away from our building is made out of quite beautiful tiles from the beginning of the 20th century. Yeah, and that's then our thing, the middle building, which somehow has that one room has one window, and the window is this French window with a very small balcony that sits in the depths of the wall, and the balcony, or the handrail of the balcony, is being transferred to the tiles on the facade, and the facade has a overall pink, purple, glazed tiling, and then above the windows there's a small thing that helps us to solve the fire regulations. It's also tiled. Yeah, maybe that's it. And then the last building, the corner building, is the most open part, and the building talks about the contradiction between curtain wall and load-bearing wall. And is basically quite open, and it is a corner building, so you have to talk about the corner, and you have to solve it in a way. And it also has a balcony, not as explicit as this balcony in front of the Cologne Cathedral, but yeah, it has a balcony because the whole construction has this public balcony where you can look on the square. So that's the outcome of the multiple references. It's basically talking about the structure, that it's cantilevering, and it's quite open. Yeah, so here again, each room has one grid, and it's around, taken around the corner, and you can see that there's the side wall of the rooms. Somehow you can follow the construction lines. Yeah, and then we did carry information in the joints and the connections. So this is in a way a second layer over the basic layer for each building, that there is also interlacing between the four parts, like also in vernacular, in a way, or unanimous architecture. You can see that almost in every part where the rain pipes, how the rain pipes and the side walls are solved. So there is another document called Schnickschnack. So it's about the small things that are above the facades, but that they are quite of an importance. So there is the layer of advertisements that are quite important on that side. And then there are the side walls and the handrails of the balconies. And of course, the balcony and everything has something like a construction. And then there is the infrastructure in air and basically air for the public spaces, which is quite excessive. And then there were, in a way, not that intelligent engineers with very thick constructions for these kind of things. So we also had to carry them with us in creating that three-dimensional ornament. And then there are building products and semi-finished products, and we try to bricolage them. Yeah, so that's the last layer of the restaurant and the cleaning balcony for the restaurant and entrance balcony for the restaurant. And then there is a small grid in front of the facade that is able to carry all the signs and lights. It's very thin. And then there is the balcony. It's called city balcony, which is public. And it's a combination of a unifying structure and diversifying structure, because it's one thing, but it's talking about the different parts, the four different parts, because the handrail always reacts to the building behind. So they are quite different. but you can use it as one space. Yeah, and then obviously the color also does something as unifying, because everything is somehow purple. Yeah, so in a way we intended that it's unfolding the different layers, and that yeah, the viewers could unfold the different meanings of the things we applied on. Yeah, we'll see. It's still in the planning. It's still in a way on hold because there were several problems within the process within in the city. So it's still, yeah, somehow still not finished. Yeah, and that was the drawing we exhibited at the Lisbon Triennale. So there is a bit of difference between the image before and that image, which was black and white, because already there it was not clear what the future of the project would be. Yeah, but we hope that finally someday it's gonna to be built. Yeah, so that was maybe the more easy part in the facade as an ornament. And now it's maybe not that obvious to talk about floor plans as ornament, but in strolling through the beautiful books, I somehow thought that our interest in floor plans is quite ornamentic. That our floor plans always try to incorporate things behind maybe the function. So it's always more than the things you think of. And also the ornament is something behind or after. It's something that is more abstract than its origin. So it talks very abstract about different things, and maybe this is also the case in our floor plans. So this is a bit, I'm not explaining every part of the project, but yeah, maybe the point of the ornamented floor plan. So, and I think it has something to do with that the context is more generic, like for that production plant. It's somewhere in the outskirts of Słubice, which is a town on the border in Poland, on the border with Germany. It's somewhere. And also the program is also super generic because contemporary production plans are these boxes with nothing else than a color, if they are not gray. And the content of the building, it's a production plan for these kind of things. They're quite small and they're used for robots. And the way these encoders are being manufactured is like in a manufacturing plant. So you do this by hand, and from these elements so the table and the small carrier for the things and the shelf, we created clusters of workstations, and from these elements we created bigger structures, because the only thing the clients told us was that the production plan is around 2,000 square meters, and that somehow 70 persons would work there. And so, yeah, in starting from that clusters, we found out that the not rectangular order has more options, because it also incorporates different angles to grow, like the 30-degree angle, for instance. And therefore, we extended them in around 2,000 square meters. And yeah, we called them snowflakes, obviously. And then we combined them with a construction grid, and also found out that triangular construction grid is quite efficient in the means, because it's load bearing and stiff. And then we extended the annular or the research in how to put the furniture in, and then it's quite flexible, the whole system, because it has the two layers of being orthogonal and triangular. And then it was about how to light this. And we did several tests with skylights, with just a few, and then super many. And we ended up by doing something like this. So it ended up with an opening of around 20%. And that's the build plan. It's somehow incorporates all the information of the different furniture positions, and it has a flexibility in use. And it's all white because of we wanted to have it's being a daylight production. So the skylights are also in the grid of the wooden construction roof, and then the whole thing is covered by a French product, this bitumen with aluminium foil, and it's very beautiful. The material, the skylights are made to measure in a triangle form, and then the Polish workers really did a beautiful construction for the cladding of the facade. So it's, yeah, it's quite beautiful. And in this, yeah, we extended our interest in having a floor plan that carries a lot of information of things that may be there, but don't have to be really there. We extended in the afterward competition we did when Fraba was just finished. We lost that competition for the Czech National Library, and also quite similar on a quite similar site. It's very generic. It's an inner city site, but also it's super huge and empty, and has, yeah, I think the site has no information of that you're in the city, which is interesting because it's, yeah, it's on the small, not the main city side, but on the small, the Kleinseite, how you would call it in German, and but you have to be high to look on the cathedral, and you have to be also quite high to look on the river Moldau, because there is, yeah, because you already are quite high, because it's on the hillside of the topography. So it's just a meadow, and our building is being, we placed our building in the last corner of this huge meadow, and it's a square of 82 meters by 82 meters. And the program was super specific, with around 1 million of books and a lot of information about every scanner you would have somewhere. So it was really a Kafkaesque description of the program, and we did try to translate it in a very universal way in the section. So the whole thing is being thought from the section, which consists of pairs of a very high public space and a very low space for books. So it's a super high, yeah, hall and a storage space, and this is, you have this 3 times, and then the last plate is just the reference book storage space, and each of the spaces looks the same. So this is the ground floor, and it's being thought out of a grid starting from 8.2 meters then in square, and yeah, it's a permanent grid out of these tubes that also carry the building, and the tubes have holes where the light is. So it's a kind of indirect lightning from the holes, and then there are bigger openings in the floor where you can look on the storage spaces. We thought that maybe in the beginning the building could serve as a parking place or a department store or something else, because just over the time the 1 million books would come. So it's, yeah, you see this pairs of storage spaces and public spaces, but only the furniture changes. And so this is the second public hall. It's the reading hall, but the only difference from the ground floor is that it hasn't doors, but that the furniture is different. And it's the whole circulation is done by these big towers of where also the cars would go up and down. Yeah, and then there below the reading room is again a storage space where the scholars would sit around the light and have their study spaces. And some of the openings have these open desk where you can have your book from the storage. Yeah, and then the last public space has a theater hall where you can finally see on the city. And then again, there's storage below, and the last space is the roof carrying all the reference books published in Czech language. Yeah, that's a model section of these floors and mezzanines for somehow everything. Yeah, and yeah, we did this kind of archizoom rendering for it. And the last project is a housing project for a cooperative for elderly in a quite remote area in Germany. It's really somewhere in Bavaria. No one knows that city. It's a beautiful city, but it's a city, but it's quite small. It's around 15,000, 20,000 inhabitants, and because the prices for housing in Munich are so high that elderly are thinking in moving out of the city, and also the one who already are in Neuenburg think of selling their huge single family house and move together. And here the floor plan as ornament has three main functions or emblems we took as a starting point for the whole system. So one thing is the ramp because the whole building has to work as a building for or housing facility for people in wheelchairs, because you have to be 50 to be part of the cooperative. So we took the German regulation to use a ramp with a wheelchair as the main the main geometrical rule for the widths and the heights of each unit. So the whole thing is done by this 6% ramp, and it created that the each unit is 77.5 meters wide. So the whole building is being distributed by a ramp, and each unit just goes up a bit, like these 6%, which means 35 centimeters in height. And we didn't want to build a cellar or so, and as a nice starting point, the whole it's a little bit slopey, the hill, and it also has that kind of ramp. Yeah, so it's built like a stair, the whole building. And then the second a bit over exaggerated function is the balcony, because every apartment by German regulation has to have a balcony for elderly, has to have a balcony of a certain size, and we thought that the balcony could serve as a quite important threshold between each one and the community of the cooperative. So it's something like you've seen before, like these American Northern American porches, where you sit and look on the street, look on the movement of the street, and the porch is being furnished as an interior. So we thought of this porch as really an in-between space between inside and outside. So first there is the ramp, and then there is this porch with sliding doors, glazed sliding doors, and you can sit there, and especially in autumn and spring, you can really use it as your living room, and it's facing south. And then the other main fixed part is the bathroom, and it's really a room, because we thought that it's quite important to have a nice bathroom when you're older, maybe also when you're younger, but especially when you're older, when you spend a bit more time in the bathroom, then it's quite nice to really have a room that you can furnish the way you want. So within the apartments, that it's somehow fixed. It's always in the upper corner. It has also a window with a handrail, and the window goes to the floor. So it's kind of nice. And the rest of the apartment is not fixed, so it's moving. Or you could decide whether you want single rooms or different single rooms, or one big room in front, or one big room starting from south to the north, or even that you can sleep in the front towards the porch and the ramp. Yeah, so there are around these emblems, I would call them, because we are talking about ornaments. There are variations. So there are these fixed ones, like the bathroom, the porch and the ramp, but then all the other things are going to be decided by the inhabitants. So there is a kind of typology chart, but I would call it an ornament chart around these fixed points. Yeah, that's the building at the moment. It has the units have different sizes, starting from almost one single room up to a 4-room system. Yes, starting from somehow 40 square meters up to 70 something square meters by a consistent extension of 90 centimeters with a window. You can have a view on the city, which is also something fixed. Maybe also, yeah, in this ornamented floor plan, it's also something which is, yeah, has a specific position. And then, yeah, the other things I've already told. So that's then the third. It has 3 stores. Sorry, 3 floors. Yeah, so that's the last image of maybe our second approach in not only talking about a facade, but a floor plan that could be ornamented. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anna Julchen. I guess it's finished, no? Yeah, let's see. Yeah, great. Great. I put some reaction on the corner of the screen. Thank you very much. I think that I have to say very dense amount of informations, very dense amount of also beautiful images of your projects. The idea now would be, and I clearly invite students and guests to write or to tell their if there are questions, of course, to write and tell their questions on the chat or live. You can of course take the word and formulate your own questions like this. So as a first then I can always have one or a couple, because I have for sure, but I rather leave the space before if there is like some fresh questions from the panel of, let's say, guests. So let's Is anybody has a question about part of the project, other projects? Yeah, for me, I mean, what I can say, it's even I have more than one question. Maybe the first one is more related to, I mean, I really like the idea that you started from the facade, the more obvious, maybe reaction to the question of ornament. And then you went into the floor plan, and not only floor plan. I would say that, I was saying before that maybe we would have placed your contribution within our exhibition in a couple of chapters. You see, the one about walls and the one about vessels. Again, facade with sort of an informative power. More and more, I mean, then of course, then you see that you're always wrong. Maybe another very good chapter would have been the pattern one, right? Because it seems almost that that in your work there is a sort of research about a sort of organizational pattern that then becomes facades, that then becomes plan, that then becomes. So I mean, I would have found space also in that chapter, maybe, which maybe in our exhibition was one of the less architectural, but then correctly so, you when you were showing the production plant, you were correctly quoting Archizoom, which was indeed a very important part of that chapter. So, I mean, maybe it's not so much of a question, but I think that's more a comment, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe in the preparation of the lecture, I was wondering if there is if there is a moment within each project where we decide to take more the structure, the radical structure part, or if it's about the being hyper contextual, hyper referenced something. And yeah, I'm still not sure. Maybe it's too easy to say that the moment where we choose to start from the structure, and it's obviously not only the floor plan, it's also about the section. That it starts when it's a bit too easy, or the context is maybe not that specific. But I'm still not sure if it's true, because it somehow it's like this, but yeah, sometimes rethinking not all but more of our projects, then yeah, being super narrative, it has to do with the context. So if it's a conversion or so, then it's obviously more complex than if it's a new construction. Yeah, so maybe the difficulty to put us in a specific chapter also has to do with that there are that some of the projects have different approaches.
Yeah, this I totally imagine. Anyhow, our chapters were already told were somehow rooms which were too small to contain and to precisely define a specific. There are of course simplification. The needed simplification to try to give some rules or contours to the ornament discussion. So I maybe have another question, which is a question which is goes. I mean, it's not talking about what you have shown, but about other production, which is, I mean, you have been or you are anyhow busy also with the small constructions like small pavilions, small kiosks, small things which have a scale which is very much different from the hotel of 150 rooms we have seen today. And I see this. I say this because we have somehow. I mean, I'm now talking about our office, mine and Ambra. We also have this sort of very big gap, you know, like either they want 150 room hotel, which is one of the possibility, or the kiosk and the small intervention. So, I mean, how you see this? Is it a dichotomy? Is this totally continuous and normal transition among one and the other? As I think, or as I tend to think, or.
Yeah, I think it's obviously an it's economic. Don't know. It has economic reasons that on a certain point things are super slow, then you want to do something.
Yep.
And a small pavilion has the possibility to be fast, which is really nice, that the small things are fast and the big things are super slow. Maybe so slow we also never thought that it would be so slow. Like Spielbodenplatz is still not in the detailing planning, which I never thought when we did the competition, that we would somehow really got old while doing this. Yeah, I think so. The small things are really things where, like test beds, things where you can be fast and smart and nice and so ever. And finally do something, because it's not that easy.
No, but this I totally understand. I mean, I totally understand that sometimes we need projects of 3 months, 2 months, something which is very fast, but can be at the same time very effective. And I share this position. And sometimes also, I mean, tend also to think that sometimes they're even more important because indeed, if you consider the stretch of time and the amount of energy per stretch of time, sometimes you say, okay, I mean, but okay, I mean, I also think that the two, I tend to put them on, say, a little bit on the same level somehow, the two, but indeed one needs the other, at least for us. Yeah, I reopened the table to questions, but I mean, again, I always have to say that it's a luck to have the possibility to make direct questions, or even to write direct questions, even easier. So, I mean, I think that in terms of timing, we should somehow almost close because we have been a little bit longer with the presentation. But if there is a last question, yeah. Okay, I don't see reactions for the moment.
No,
But I mean, when we again, okay. It was the same when we did the initial presentation. So it's totally how to say, it's totally foreseen somehow. So it's okay. It's okay like this. I take Claude. Normally we should close. I mean, I don't see you at the moment, but I think that's.
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you very much, Claude. It's time to close. Anna Julchen, thank you very much for your intervention. I think it was very rich. I think that's been a great occasion for us and for the students to follow your explanation and the presentation of your projects. Again, as we know, the conferences, the presentation are recorded and put on the YouTube of the school, so they have a life which is much longer than the time frame of the presentation itself.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, and
yes, thank you for the invitation.
we will. Yeah, I hope we will have soon occasion to personally meet again after all this series of very distant presentation and conferences.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Anna Julchen.
Yeah.
Bye.
Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
Yes.
To be somehow in Paris.
Yeah. For me too. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.